When I was visiting the Bennington Museum a few summers ago, I not only made the acquaintance of James Wilson, the first American commercial globe maker, but I really discovered the unique power of objects to tell a story that's not available to us from the textual record. To be honest, I had come to the museum really, although I said I'd come to look at objects, I'd really come to look at the curatorial files, looking at texts, which I was much more comfortable with. It was an exhibit on Vermont furniture in the early Republic. But as I wandered through the sunlit main gallery in Bennington, where the museum's treasured objects from Vermont's early history were displayed, I started to see things that helped me understand how artisans and consumers, and those are really the two groups, imagined their world. First, my eye was struck by a large neoclassical sideboard that you see here with this, with this graceful bow front and sleek lines, looking for all the world like a sophisticated Boston product, but it was made in Windsor, Vermont. And in fact, when you look at the inlays here, you can see that 3 of the inlays go in one direction and the 4th goes in the other. And my assumption there is that this is a person, a cabinet maker, who actually didn't make lots of sideboards. And so the fact that he was making this one meant that he was much less familiar than his metropolitan colleague, and that accounts for some of the variances in construction. At the other end of the museum, I noticed a marvelous musical tall clock built by a Rutland, Vermont clockmaking partnership. The timepiece boasted a calendar wheel, a moon dial, and it played 7 tunes, 1 for each day of the week, with a psalm for Sunday. Then I noticed a large, really not just a large, a massive desk and encyclopedia-filled bookcase that you see before you, really dominating a whole side of the room, a whole corner of the room, where the museum had reconstructed the interior of an early 19th century Vermont home. As I grew closer, as I moved closer, the desk I learned belonged to James Wilson of Bradford, Vermont, a town quite far north along the Connecticut River. Inching even closer, because I really wasn't familiar, the label stated that Wilson was the United States' first globe maker, and one of Wilson's early globes sat there in a plexi case in front of the display. Seems strange to me that moment that in such a relatively out-of-the-way place as Bradford in the early 19th century, that globe making, the first American globes, were being made. And I really left the museum that day really enthralled with the thought about learning more about James Wilson. How could a globe maker have worked in the upper Connecticut River Valley in the 1790s? How did he learn about globe making? What were the sources of his information? And for that matter, not just his information, but his inspiration. What gave him the project of being a globe maker at the time?